First came to Louisiana after Hurricane Katrina, setting up a company on the North Shore to help people rebuild.
It was a huge success, but in 2020, he says he became the victim of a brazen embezzlement, and after 4 years, Wilson is still fighting for his day in court.
Investigator Mike Perlstein has the exclusive story.
Right after Katrina, my wife and I fell in love with the house. It was for sale.
72-year-old Robert Wilson Sr. didn't think he'd become so attached to his new home, but as his business grew by leaps and bounds, he quickly fell for the boating and fishing lifestyle of St. Tammany Parish.
Unfortunately, we had to sell it, being devastated with the theft.
This was no ordinary theft. As Wilson explains it, and as detailed in this police report and pending civil lawsuit, this was a massive fraud that went unchecked for 3 years, ultimately bringing his company, Wilserv Corporation, to its knees. This is where the company used to operate at its peak, with more than 60 employees. And this is where they are now, down to 5 employees housed in this single storage unit.
This is our unit now, and unfortunately, this is about all we can afford now.
Wilson's former trusted bookkeeper, Megan Bagley Ravolo, was booked in July 2020 with theft over $25,000. But Wilson and his civil attorney, Ryan Higgins, say that amount is only a tiny fraction of Ravolo's bold inside con job. This civil lawsuit against Ravolo and her husband, Dominic, claims that what began as unauthorized spending at local gas stations and convenience stores quickly escalated to clothes, meals, car repairs, sporting events, and eventually elaborate vacations. In his suit, he says he uncovered family trips to SeaWorld in San Antonio and Six Flags in Georgia, even a Taylor Swift concert.
Paris, we've seen charges in Las Vegas to have sitters and limousines and hotel rooms, and so stuff that would be very difficult to explain.
The lawsuit claims Ravolo stole more than $500,000 in company funds. Wilson says he found even more missing money as he kept looking, finding secret credit cards and bank accounts that she used to pay herself double and transfer even more money to her husband.
But I had uncovered over $800,000 worth of money that she had taken.
Wilson says he first grew suspicious when the company was somehow bleeding money despite doing booming business.
After I was repeatedly putting in $100,000 funds to keep the company going.
Wilson says he first approached Ravolo to understand why money was evaporating. In his lawsuit, he recounts that she tried to blame other employees, pointing out minor unauthorized purchases, such as candy bars.
She knew how to gain your trust and tell you things that would make you feel comfortable with her, but at the same time, the company's dying, and I couldn't figure it out.
Then Wilson stumbled on this $700 invoice for the purchase of 4 tires at a shop he never used before.
But this was the smoking gun. She had her tires put on her personal vehicle, and we caught it, and this is where the landslide started. It went from this to hundreds of other charges that were done that were fraudulent.
Basically presented the detectives that were handling the case with all this evidence he had to obtain. They brought the criminal charges.
But the status of Ravolo's theft charge has Wilson feeling like he's being victimized twice. First by his former bookkeeper, and now by the criminal justice system. Ravolo's trial has been stalled for more than 3 years, and Wilson's civil lawsuit is stuck on square one until the criminal case is resolved.
We have been able to document from review of the court record and our investigation, I think that there's been 18 continuances of the criminal trial to date.
Have you gotten to the bottom of why this is still stuck?
No, I haven't. Honestly, that's kind of why we're talking to you.
Records show that the case was initially set for trial in January 2021. The case now has a new date coming up on October 28th. But Wilson and his attorney Ryan Higgins aren't holding their breath. Some of the previous 17 postponements have been due to requests from defense attorneys, scheduling conflicts, COVID, and most recently in April and June because Ravolo switched attorneys.
My frustration and reason I'm here is to try to figure out a way to get this brought to court and see justice.
Wilson says he still loves Louisiana. He visits to keep up with what's left of his business, and of course, every time the court sets a new trial date.
It is heartbreaking to see it and come back and see where we went to and where we are now.
Mike Perlstein, WWL, Louisiana.
Rivolo's new attorney says he hopes the case can be resolved by the end of the year. A spokesperson for the St. Tammany District Attorney declined to comment.